Cam has said it for weeks. The mission is clear. Another step and another mission accomplished this past weekend. A 4-touchdown win against Wake Forest. Syracuse is straight ahead as the regular season finale on the road. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. It's our Miami show that we provide for you each and every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Cam Underwood, center stage, state of the U, delivering the analysis, of course. So Cam and I slice it up each and every week. We appreciate you stopping by. Comments and questions are welcome. Cam, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Reminded me, back when I was teaching and performing with that center stage reference. That's crazy. But yeah, man, here we are. First of all, happy Thanksgiving week to one and all. Hopefully you are, going to be able to spend time with your families and just enjoy the, camaraderie of human fellowship. So extending those good wishes I said it to Mark before we came on, leading it off with, all of you guys, as well. And we're going to do that. And then pretty much turn our attention straight to Syracuse, which is where the attention should go.
So before we check out the 8-3 Cuse, what do you consider to be the major points of emphasis coming out of Wake in regards to what was accomplished, what looked extra good? Of course, it was a fairly close game, really close game for not quite a half, if I recall. And then busted loose, and before you knew it, bam, 42-14. So a comfortable win with a dominant second half plus. So any things that need to be shored up, and then of course the high points.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we're starting with the squeaky wheels that need the grease, second time this year that Miami's gone up big and given up a touchdown kickoff return to make it a game, basically. It was bad on all accounts. Markeith Williams stopped his feet and just got juked out of his, jock strap. Robert Stafford, who is among the speedier players on the team, was that last backside safety. So they returned it from the defense's left going to the defense's right. Offense, on their sideline going right to left. So whichever way you want to look at it, but from the Miami perspective, Stafford was the deep safety on Miami's return coverage left. So that gave him a long time to hit that angle, right, to go get there. And then he flattened the angle out for whatever reason. You saw it about the 35-yard line or 40-yard line going towards midfield, that he had taken a very deep, pursuit angle. And then he started to flatten it. And I'm like, you're not going to get there. As soon as he went to flatten it, I was like, oh boy. So, you gotta get that tightened up. You cannot continue to give up kick return touchdowns. And it just takes all the momentum away from the team. You saw it at Louisville. You saw it in this week and everything. And, so that is something that needs to, get shored up. Syracuse went to kind of switch routes on an over for their first touchdown, basically because when you switch across the field, it makes it challenging for defensive backs to track that and pass that off, depending on who's supposed to be where. And then you end up with no safeties over the top and three linebackers. Played a lot of like three linebacker sets recently too. But three linebackers way in front of the receiver with their heels about 10 or 15 yards from the line of scrimmage, and receiver butt naked wide open. And it's just like, it's the same concept, packaged differently, but it's the same concept that had given Miami trouble. Now, Wake Forest did go back to that concept later. Miami did play much better defense, and they got home with a sack on that play. They ran it for the touchdown from the offense's right to left. They went back to it twice, running from the offense's left to right as the strength of that play, of where you're trying to get the guy going. But Miami, I think they forced a check down on one and got a sack on the other. So that was good to see. Okay, hearing for 2 weeks that the team had worked on alignment, assignment, and communication being the 3 things. And those are the 3 things that were tested in that play. Didn't love having one of those pop. Loved the fact that that was the only one. Procedural penalties for the first time this year reared their ugly head in this game. So you're talking about, illegal formation, false start because you're going at tempo, and the false start is engendered because not everyone had time to get set before the play. Like you're going either no huddle or, the sugar huddle, which is real quick. Hey, play number 2, and you're right back to your spots, but not taking that beat of 1,000 before. So they called it on whomever, actually, and again, I always leave off the official stats for this very reason. But if you look at the penalties, they called them on. So there's an illegal formation on Restrepo, so that's an alignment thing because of that. 2 false starts, but they're the same exact thing, and didn't give a player that it was listed on. But it's the same thing of we're going so fast and didn't take a beat, and all of those are procedural things. I'm like, that we haven't seen that this year. So those are 3 things that popped up to me that could be better. The kickoff return for a touchdown, the over route, and then the offensive procedural kind of penalties. I heard Tim Reynolds from the Associated Press say this, and then I looked it up, and he was 100% correct, as is wont to happen because he's good at his job. Hold on, where did I put it? So after the first drive, which ended in the touchdown, Wake Forest averaged 2.36 yards per play the rest of the game. If that is an elite, I don't know what is. Now, and I want to give you a 4th thing that might need some addressing. The second drive of the game that ended on the Mish Powell pick 6, that was a 17-play drive. That was 17 plays for 57 yards. Now, I mean, it wasn't, it was very plotting. Like, huh?
That's tough to do.
It's very tough. You get a couple penalties, you get, a 4th down conversion in there, a couple 3rd down, it was very tough to do. Yes, 17 plays, but it was like 1 step, 2 step, 1 step, 2 step, 1 step, 2 step, but they kept stepping forward. So, if you think back to the unfortunate occasion in Georgia Tech, they had that 11-minute drive, 10 minutes, 47 seconds, whatever. But they had that 11-minute drive. This was very much like that, but Miami finally was able to make a play, and that was included in the 2.36 yards per play after that first drive statistic. So just wanted to throw it out there. Yes, I saw it was a very long drive. There's that also. Excuse me. For a unit that was being so maligned for giving up 28 points. And that's a little disingenuous for me because it wasn't just the points. It was the way that Georgia Tech moved the ball. They just couldn't, get off the field and money downs and things like that. Miami's defense gave up 7 points. And that is pretty good. If that's the standard moving forward, where because I saw multiple people, my guy Roman, Orange Bowl boys, I saw Gabby, Rudy, I saw other people saying hey, and I even said, look, if we can keep a team to 24 to 28 on defense, we're going to be good on offense, right? But now if there's a possibility of 7 points that the defense allowed, again, I know people are like the kickoff return unit is a defensive engagement. It is not the base defense, right? I thought that was just really great. I mean, 6 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. Claiborne had 1 long run, so that's 18 for 45. If you take away the 17 that the stats you're looking at right there.
Yep.
Hey man, like that's, Yeah, they really showed up and showed out. I really enjoyed that. The running game for Miami really did get going. Mark Fletcher was eating at almost 10 yards a carry. Damian Martinez, not as much. But after, some of those body blows in that second half, Jordan Lyles, 7 carries for 115. Hello. And it's like, well, but he has 61-yarder. Yeah, he had a 61-yarder. Like those are the ones. And I think if Fletcher or Martinez had been in on that play, I think maybe that goes for 15 or 20. Jordan Lyle has a little extra gear in there, and those body blows early really did the work, and then he creased them. That was not the touchdown run, by the way. That was just a long run. I thought Cam Ward was fine. I didn't think that it was his best day. I think that we missed a couple of touchdowns. There was an incompletion to Arroyo. The seas parted it was like the Red Sea. Like the safeties went cover 2, had him straight on a seam route, and Cam missed him. So that wasn't really great. He had another one of those crazy improvisational plays when he tried to pitch it forward to Arroyo and threw an interception. Had another touchdown called back, by the way, for a correct call on offensive pass interference. It's that one that they run. It's a curl with a kind of switch release wheel kind of a thing to Xavier Restrepo. But Jacoby George ran that wrong this week. It's been correctly run without OPI previously. That last week he ran into the defender. So that makes 8 or 9 passing touchdowns for Cam that have come back off of the board this year. I don't agree that all of them were correct calls. That one was clear as day. Like, couldn't miss it. But we got a lot of things going in a good way. Shout out to Dylan Day for forcing a fumble by the Claiborne kid on a kick return after a touchdown that really got Miami rolling in the fourth quarter there. It was the second of 3 touchdowns in that quarter. So, there's a lot to like, some things to work on, but in the end, just really the stick-to-itiveness, the positive attitude, this team will continue to fight to the end. It was a little annoying that it was as close as it was for the time that it was, because there was no way that this was like 20 to 14 at halftime was not indicative of the game. Miami was clearly in control. Ended up having the settling for a field goal. You don't even get another field goal because you get the deep interception inside the 30. Late in the second quarter also. But yeah, it just 20 to 14 at halftime was not indicative of the game. Third quarter stalemate, random. But Miami does have those lulls, in the middle of the game, and then finally was able to make the scoreboard look like what the game looked like. Really could have easily been a 50-burger or more. But this is what you should do to a team like Wake Forest, who simply is not on the level. And, I saw people say, hey, Wake Forest made it easy on Miami's defense by doing the same things. Like, as in not changing their scheme, as in not employing different things, it's not going and doing different stuff. They stuck true to who they were, and goddamn it, Georgia Tech did the same things or the same thing throughout the game, and it worked. So I get that you want to say, well, it's Wake Forest, they're lightly talented. I'm going to give credit to this team because other teams found things and they stuck with them and they worked and they worked and they worked and they worked until Miami made them not work, i.e. Virginia Tech, i.e. Cal, i.e. Louisville. But no, I'm not going to take anything away from this team. That was a pressure spot. That was our first playoff game because I still am of the mind that Miami will not make the playoff if they lose, any of these final games. And that takes us on to the regular season finale this Saturday at Syracuse.
Just 2 other notes here to go along with what you're talking about. Of course, the total yardage for Wake Forest in this game is sub 200 yards, 193. That if you're below 200 yards in a college football game in 2024, then you're not getting it done. So Miami with an exemplary defensive effort, for all the reasons cited. Plus, even if you look at the offensive side in the rushing game by Jordan Lyle, and you play the same game as you do with the Damon Claiborne statistic, even if you take away the 61-yard run, 6 carries for 54 yards. That's 9 yards per carry.
That's 2 backs at 9 a
That gets it
carry,
done.
even without the Lyle explosive. Exactly.
On to the super chats. We've got Falconer TRX. Appreciate you leading us off. Thank you for that. And then we've got John Bird. Beat Syracuse and go take care of SMU in the ACC championship game and go from there. Like listening to you guys. As always, let's go Canes.
Yeah, man. That's what we're at. You know, John, I think you said it perfectly. But the first step was beating Wake Forest. And I know that they're not the best team and a little bit of a mismatch on the, in the favor of Miami. But, hey, there were 7 top 25 teams that lost last week. Again, I keep saying winning isn't easy. Like whether you're looking at, Colorado with, Deion Sanders, because I don't call him the other name that he wants to be called. Deion Sanders is their coach. And then he came out afterwards and said, hey, man, we had a perfect opportunity to be in control of our destiny towards getting to where we wanted to, and we bottled it. We fumbled it. Sure did. And now, even if they win and all these teams with a 4-way tie in the Big 12, like they had to put up like a website. There's reporters saying them saying, hey, what are the tiebreaker scenarios? If it's a 14 tie, there's no scenario in which Colorado makes the conference championship game now. I don't know how they worked it out. They said it. They told one of the beat writers out there for The Athletic. They even put up a website about it, I believe, today and said, hey, for anybody wondering, these are what the tiebreakers are now. So you find a way to lose, right? And that happens. That happens to a lot of teams. I have no PS, by the way. Last week I was talking about how I didn't believe that Alabama should have been ranked above Miami. Oklahoma took good and final care of that because I haven't seen Alabama look like that since some like Mike Shula or whatever. I mean, that was, 35-3, 28-3, whatever it was. They got beat down. It was crazy. But yeah, it takes care of itself. That's why I keep saying just go and win. And winning is not easy because I picked Alabama to win that game. And I thought they were going to win that game. I think they're a more talented and better team. It didn't play out like that on Saturday. So I'm not taking anything for granted, including this Wake Forest win, from last week. Now we got to move our focus entirely to Syracuse, which is what, Mario Cristobal says is where the focus lies. 3:30 in the Dome. They were after during last week, Syracuse, their players and their coach, they were lobbying, trying to get game day to go up there for that game. Just saying, they haven't been here and it's a great environment and it's going to be a top-ranked team. I'm like, you're advocating for your opponent. I'm just saying, because if you're talking about a top-ranked team, respectfully, you're not talking about Syracuse. Now, Syracuse is good. Syracuse can win, but yeah, they were lobbying for that, and in game day said, no, we're absolutely not going there. But yeah, Syracuse is a tough team. They throw the ball a lot. They run. I mean, their running back is big. But yeah, they McCord threw it 47 times for 470 last week. They ran it with a variety of guys. You see wide receiver numbers, including Oronde Gadsden Jr. That is Oronde Gadsden, the son of Oronde Gadsden, who played for the Miami Dolphins. In case you were wondering, like that's it. Yes, that is his progeny. And they're an older team. They're a physical team. On offense and defense, they do run this, that real air raid offense, but they're a tough challenge. Miami opened as like a 10.5, 12.5 point favorite. But this is where Miami has been in terms of, favorites for the across the year. But as you see there, 3 receivers with 100 in the last game. I mean, that's how you get to almost 500 yards, with a receiver just short of 200 and two just over the 100-yard mark. And then, hey, Justice Ross Simmons, 1 for 32. That could be a game-winning play, guys. I I guarantee you, Cal would have loved one extra catch for 32 yards when they were trying to extend that lead. You know what I mean? Like that, and that's a third of the field in one chunk. That's nothing to shake a stick at. The Pena kid is like he's their slot guy. Really didn't even do much, but he is one of their top players on offense. Still got in the end zone. But yeah, this is a team that is a formidable opponent. You know, I'm gonna still call it the Carrier Dome. I know it's the JMA Wireless. It's the Carrier Dome, bro. It's where Donovan McNabb played. It's where, you know, all those basketball games were played, you know, up to the same gym, barn that they made into a gym. It is what it is. And they're going to be keyed up. You know, this is continues to be the Super Bowl for the opponents. And honestly, this has to be Miami's Super Bowl as well. Every week is a playoff game. Now, I know after the rankings, the college football playoff rankings that came out on Tuesday, where Miami moved up, Tuesday being yesterday, Miami moved up from 8 to 6 and maintains their third seed. Because remember, it's the conference champions get the top seeds. But they move up 2 spots to 6th, and SMU is at 9th. That opens up the door for a team losing the ACC championship. I'm going to get there. That opens up the door for a team who loses the ACC championship game potentially to make the college football playoff field, which is something that I did not see as open before when it was Miami at 7 or 8 and then SMU at like 13 to 15. So you move them both up into the range of, you know, seeded teams. Cool. Then you also, as Mark was alluding to by flashing the 3, have Clemson lurking there at 13th. 12th. Sorry, but seeded 13th because.
Oh, I got you.
Right. Yeah, ranked 12, seeded 13th. So the first team not in the bracket. So we went from basically one way into the college football playoff for an ACC team, which is win the ACC championship game. And I'm not saying that I want to leverage one of these extended ones, right? But potentially having a path for 2, if not 3. And I think that finally, you know, the committee had to kind of admit that that the ACC is not the trash conference that they were kind of using as their logical foundation moving forward previously. But in terms of Miami, I'm not leaving it to chance. Because if you lose this game, bye, see ya. It'll be SMU and Clemson. Tough. You know what I mean? So, like, is there a path? Yes. I don't think there's a backdoor path for Miami. Miami, I believe, still needs to go and win, and that should be the focus.
I don't think the rankings are horrendous. I ranked the teams. Well, I made a prediction of what I thought the committee would do. So I'd never done that before. I made a top 25 prediction of what I thought they would unveil, and I was no more than 1 spot off on anyone. So I hit it pretty close. These are the issues I have. And then here is the opportunity that the ACC has from my angle, and then also where the committee has somewhat boxed themselves in if, in fact, they're going to rally the SEC into these spots. So first and foremost, Clemson's got a pretty marginal resume. I do not believe in the Clemson resume. I did not expect Ole Miss and Alabama to drop below Clemson. Now, I know a lot of people are really against Alabama at this point, and they did look horrific this past weekend, but it is an evaluation of the entire season, and their 8-3 resume is stronger. So is Ole Miss's than Clemson's 9-2 resume. Clemson's 9-2 resume includes a total beatdown by Georgia, a dominant win by Louisville, and then Clemson's best win is Pitt. Like, I just don't see where that resume is any good at all. So I've got Clemson at 17. So I did a predictor, but then I also did where I ranked the teams. I've got Clemson at 17. I just don't think that they have earned that ranking. That said, my rankings don't matter. The committee's got them at 12. So with Miami at 6, and nobody here wants to hear this because this involves Miami losing the ACC championship game. But if you're some ACC fan that wants to see the best possible scenario, and I understand your viewpoint, Cam, because you just want to guarantee it. Obviously, you want to win championships and march in and all of that. And I understand the reservation because we know how these committees work and how they have worked and how just things magically you lose to SMU by a field goal in a really good game and you go from 6 to 13 and what just happened. But logically, based on the way the committee has moved these teams, if SMU is their 9th best team in the country and they beat number 6, Miami's ascended all the way to 6, there should be no way, based on how they've treated these other teams, that Miami should drop out of the playoff if they lose a close game against SMU. They should not drop from 6 all the way to 13.
Shouldn't, but I'm not putting it past them, man. We've seen this stuff. There's a super chat in there. Somebody talking about maybe it's just a regular comment, but basically saying one about guys being left off of
I saw it.
ballots.
I'll grab it.
Yeah. But basically, like, Xavier Restrepo not being a finalist for the Biletnikoff for best receiver in the country, Andres Borregales not being a finalist for the Groza Award, and Cam Ward not being a finalist for like the Maxwell Award, and a couple look, hey, Tyson Tracy, thanks for the question. I don't know, bro. I don't. If you're espousing that your award is for the best college football player or the most outstanding offensive player in the country this year, and Cam Ward is not one of your finalists, you've invalidated your award on its face. I'm not paying attention at all to the Maxwell henceforth. You have shown yourself to be a comedic organization. Like, your opinion is not worth mentioning. Restrepo, I get. I don't like it. But he is, if I open up the stats really quick, sorry, I know this is really great stuff.
Well, it always depends on how many other guys were named. Are we talking about finalists as in 3? Or are we talking about 7?
3.
Okay.
Like the terminal finalists. So Restrepo leading the team in receiving at 979 with 10 touchdowns. He is 13th in the country in receiving yards and tied for 7th in receiving touchdowns. I know he set all the Miami career records and things, and I think that like making him a finalist would have been like a career, like a lifetime achievement award kind of a thing. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be all conference. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be second team All-American. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be all those things, because I think that he should, but being a top 3 finalist for best singular receiver in this season feels a little bit of a stretch. But I can still say that commend him for the work that he's done, being the all-time career leader in receptions and receiving yards at the University of Miami, pushing this team, being an integral part of this offense, should be, first team all-conference, should be maybe second team All-American. All those things are still in front of him. That one I didn't have as much pushback on. Borregales not being a finalist, and the kid from Florida State being, and he was a finalist last year and is performing better. Actually, Borregales is, and it's like, oh, well, he's missed a singular kick this year. Really? That's what we're going to do? Oh, well, the kid from Florida State has scored 90% of the points that Florida State has scored this year. Not my fault that they're dumpster juice. You know what I mean? Like, Borregales has more extra points than that other kid has total points, field goals and extra points this year. What are we talking about? So it's gonna, I mean, like, it just, like, that's one. So again, I always like to come in here, Mark, when people say, okay, somebody got left off or whatever, who will go? That kid. I think it's the Fitzgerald kid from or Get Out. Sorry. Actually, I'm not even sorry.
You said 100%. It's hard to do much better than that.
Yeah, but when you have 7 kicks in a year versus what
he's 11 for 11.
Doing, what?
So I will let you know that this is what I don't like about all of these awards is that I filled out an All-America team for the Football Writers Association.
Nice.
And in looking at the kickers, this is what I do. If I don't have any immediate knowledge of, okay, I saw this, this, and that, of course, I'm going to the statistics. And what am I doing? Am I just saying, okay, this guy's 11 for 11. He's on my All-America team? No, of course not. I'm looking at percentage, of course. I'm looking at when are these kicks happening? Are they taking place in meaningful games against good competition? Or did he inflate his numbers? Not his fault, whoever it is, just this random hypothetical kicker. Did he go 6 for 6 against UConn when they won 48-13? And then I look at the length of the kicks. What was the 40 to 49, 50 plus numbers? And then are we looking at game winning or game losing misses? So I go to all those various categories to try to get a well-rounded look at these kicking performances.
Yeah, I mean, look, I understand.
I selected the Michigan kicker, by the way.
Okay. And that's not necessarily one that I have pushback on. I do have pushback on it. But yeah, I think it was kind of, I think it's ridiculous that Borgal is, as a senior, being left off after having been a semifinalist as a sophomore, a finalist as a junior, and his performance has continued to be excellent and improving on this team. So if you're talking about in the context of the team that you're on, you know what I mean. But yeah, so he's 95% efficacy rate on 15 or 16 or 93.8, whatever it is. And I saw somebody, on Twitter respond to me and said, hey, like this offense continues to score touchdowns and like go for it on 4th down situations. And that's taken away some of the opportunities that he would have had for a larger number of field goal attempts. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, maybe that is true. Like if he would have been, 21 for 22 instead of 15 for 16 with 6 more kicks or whatever. But we have the offense to be able to go for it, and we go for it and we score. And so he's had a million extra points. But yeah, I'm very displeased by that one.
Who were the Maxwell finalists?
I would have to look.
Boise State, Ashton Genty.
It was probably like, and I know where it is, and I might get pushback on this, but before we just go on, Dylan Gabriel was a finalist and Cam Ward was not. I'm very sorry. Individual singular excellence, even in the context of a team construct, Cameron Ward. Not just because his name is my name and my name is his name too, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. You're not picking. Dan Lanning is picking Cam Ward. Given the opportunity to say, you got one quarterback for your team. Pick one. Anonymously behind. I get that he would go in the public and say, well, yes, if I have to, I'm going to pick my guy. You go behind closed doors and give him the option, he's picking Cam Ward. The fact that continues to be a thing where they're trying to prop up Dylan freaking Gabriel over Cam Ward for individual excellence this year, absolutely fuck not.
Yeah, so of course Dylan Gabriel's having a nice season, of course, but 22 touchdowns and 6 picks is nothing overwhelming.
You know what is overwhelming? Cam Ward's numbers.
Dylan Gabriel is completing 6 percentage points higher. Cam Ward's got a lot more yardage, and he's got a 34-7 touchdown to pick ratio versus 22-6. Yeah, and then beyond that, you just have to watch the guys play.
at
It's
78 yards more passing per game, not even taking into account the running numbers and everything. And come on, no, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. And again, Dylan Gabriel, excuse me, good, solid player, should be considered for a variety of awards and placements and things, but not a single one of them should be at the expense of Cam Ward. Not a single, unless it's who's the best Oregon Ducks quarterback this year, Dylan Gabriel or Cam Ward. Oh, Dylan Gabriel all day. Anything short of that in comparison, there is no comparison.
I don't know how many times Dylan Gabriel has been sitting on the bench in the fourth quarter because they've just been putting teams away week after week. I don't know.
Miami could have been, Miami could have sat Cam Ward a lot this year and didn't. I know it was early and, you're trying to build that camaraderie, but there were a lot of people coming at me during games. Hey, even the Florida game, hey, get him out of there. Okay. He could have sat. And also, it's on the defense a little bit because that Louisville game, we were about to boat race them and he could have sat and things like that. But yeah.
Let's finish out these super chats, and then I've got a couple other CFP notes here. But Knox Kane, appreciate you being here. So sick of the Miami hate. New Rivals article on DJ Pickett does not mention Miami as a possible destination.
I don't know if that's Rivals National or whatnot, but I know that Mr. Pickett Sr., I think it's DeMar or something, is what the D stands for in DJ. But I know that he's been talking to one of the recruiting writers from the Rivals Miami site. So if that's a national thing, then I could see where he's given the exclusive interview to, I'll put his name out there, Izubi Charles from Kane Sport. So he's been talking to Izubi a couple of times. And so you have that piece already on the Miami website, the Miami Rivals site, then the national site going in a slightly different direction. From an editorial standpoint, I get it. I agree. I see the path of logic that D Money from Kane's Insight has been using in terms of saying that DJ Pickett will end up at Miami. Dad went to Miami, cousin is at Miami, currently Booker Pickett Jr. His other cousin Cannon, an offensive lineman in the next year's class, very high on Miami, family, all Miami fans, and everything. So it stands to reason that there was a little bit of yada, yada, yada shenanigans, pretty much everybody who thought they knew where he was going with his first commitment, which was LSU or somewhere else, or Georgia, were wrong because he picked Oregon at first and everybody was surprised. So I get where you're kind of putting those things together and saying, okay, so logically going to this close, you look at what OJ Frederick has done, with his performance and development this year, because that was a thing that Izubi asked, Mr. Pickett Sr. about and everything. I can follow the breadcrumbs. I'm not as sure in that as D Money is, because that's his logical baby. So he's like, no, this is it. I believe this fully. I believe that he believes it and I understand it. I'm just not sure that I share that same belief. But I will say that with all signs pointing to DJ Pickett not signing with LSU, which I even said last week is becoming one of the worst kept secrets in recruiting, that he is not going to end up there. With that being the case, I do believe that Miami is a viable destination for the final, commitment and collegiate experience. Whether it happens or not, we'll see. So that was a long answer. But if it is the national Rivals site, I do understand why they might have been different than Kane Sport and then just linked to it and said, hey, for a different view, click on that link.
Falconer TRX reminding us he's still here. Will Ward stop bad plays? He says he will, but
no. He's a gunslinger at heart. And even when I saw it, I just sighed and started typing my tweet. The interception the last week was just atrocious. I think that does also spur him into positive action of, fine, I'll take this check down. That those are the Brussels sprouts and broccoli for him. Like, he wants ice cream and chocolate. Fine, like, he'll do it, but it takes a negative thing for that to happen. So we're seeing some of that, but he's always gonna be a gunslinger at heart. He's always gonna have that in him, and you just need to. You're gonna have to live with it. And whatever, pro team is, they're going to have to really just like really impress upon him. You can't be doing that kind of stuff. And it's not the same. It's not the same. I'm going to say it again, Mark, before I give you my point. It's not the same. It's similar to when Patrick Mahomes was at Texas Tech and in his interviews with the NFL said, I intentionally had to do wild stuff. I had to raise my risk profile because I'm playing with a bunch of, plumbers and electricians, right? Not a lot of guys on this offense are going to the league, but I have this talent. So I had to do some crazy stuff that I wouldn't always do. And the really, really bad things that you saw from him at Texas Tech, you have not seen from him in the league either. It's not the same, but a similar kind of a thing where he's like, hey, this is my mentality. I'm always hunting the big plays. This is what I've done, da-da-da-da-da. And when you look at Incarnate Word and you look at Wazoo, there is a measure of disparity between his talent and that of everybody else. Not so much here at Miami because there's talent everywhere. But it's hard to break those habits. But then he can say, okay, cool. I did even less of it, which is crazy to see because he has done less of it this year. But then also going towards the league, I cut those crazy bad plays in like fractional, like half or a third from what you'd seen previous in my career, but I'm sure that I can get those even lower while still having that dominant edge towards making big plays that, has brought me to this place of being the number 1 overall draft pick.
Falconer. No, Knox K94. Knox K94. How the heck is Bama still 13th? If I may, Cam, they're appropriately ranked. I know it doesn't sit well with people, and I understand last week's performance was atrocious, but if you were going to rank or if you're going to criticize a ranking or two, you just can't do it that way. You have to go through all the rankings. You can't just say, how in the world are they 13th? Just believe me, if you really review these resumes and you look through them, it doesn't take long near the end of that top 10 into the beginning of the teens where you've got a lot of flaws in these resumes. I'm just telling you, an 8-3 with wins against LSU, Georgia in particular off the top of my head, Wisconsin versus a bunch of 9-2 teams in the Big 12. That makes sense.
Wisconsin isn't good. LSU is decidedly average. The one is Georgia, and you lost to a Vanderbilt team that's about to go 6-6 and got your doors blown off. I'm sorry. No, and this is the thing. If
who
you
should
want
be below them, or who should be above them?
I haven't looked into it because it's not my argument because we're ahead of them and we should be. My point is when you ignore the losses, then you're just doing a popularity contest, which is what this is. That team showed two things, disparate things this year. One, they can beat Georgia soundly, and two, they can get their doors blown off and almost shut out by Oklahoma. I'm sorry. Like, this year's team is not worthy of that number 13 ranking. It simply is not. It is a popularity contest, and we're ranking the name and the logo and the history of that team to leave them there. Because if there was another team up there, if Ole Miss had lost a game the way that Alabama lost that game, there's no conversation about Ole Miss at 13. It's not. It's simply not. They're there because it has Alabama with crimson and cream. I'm sorry. No, not this year. I'm sorry.
Ole Miss is one spot below Alabama. They lost to Kentucky. Ole Miss lost to the same LSU team that Bama beat by 4 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And LSU is not an average team. They're an average good team.
Okay.
They should be 8-4 at the end of the year. They're 7-4 right now. And I'm not counting Vandy losing to Tennessee. Yeah, that does not. It hasn't happened yet. We're not projecting what's happening. And I'm just in a vacuum. If you came to me at the end of the Oklahoma game and said, should Alabama be ranked 13th in the country? I would say I would have the same response. But once you start going through these teams, that 8-3 resume in the SEC is so much better than this list of 9-2 Big 12 teams. That conference has done nothing outside the conference.
You have to win the games on the schedule, though. And again, like
but there's only one game difference there: 9-2, 8-3.
But that's a big difference. It's a big difference. It is a big difference. And if you're talking about this year's team and the performance, I'm sorry.
I am talking about this year.
To win these games.
I am talking about this year. None of those Big 12 teams have beaten anybody like LSU and Georgia. The conference is just not even comparable.
See, and I have a friend who does this also. I'm not saying that the Big 12 is comparable. So I'm not going to sit here and argue that point because I didn't say that. That's a thing from other people. But I will say that, yes, Alabama is getting Lifetime Achievement Award ranking because because I know that Ole Miss has lost games. They haven't lost any game as bad as that.
Sure.
If they had lost a game as bad as that, even with these 3 losses. So the fact that Ole Miss has been closer in their losses is the thing that's buoying them. If they had a blown out, got their face beat in game like they just had, like Alabama just had, they're 22, and then they're putting that on recruiting stuff and say, well, we end the year as a ranked team. Ranked what? You ain't getting close to the playoff. Not even close. The fact that they're up there is only because it's Alabama. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just saying I don't care about the logo or the brand. I do my best to look at these teams. And again, just the statement that Alabama's number 13 and they put that game on tape and a Vandy game on tape, I totally get it within that vacuum of that statement. But when you start to compare all these other teams around them, they're better and they have a better resume than BYU and Arizona State and all these teams.
They're more talented.
No, they've got a better resume.
They lost these games.
Right. BYU just lost to Kansas. Arizona State lost to Cincinnati.
They did. They did. And
everybody's losing to
but I'm not going to sit here and then say that's not a valid point. What the thing is when people rank Alabama at 13 is saying that the losses don't matter, and those are not valid points by the ranking. I disagree. But Falcon and TRX, thank you for that one. Q students are not on campus or not there due to Thanksgiving unless they're local, and there are a bunch who are local. That is a big public school up in northern New York. Near Buffalo and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it'll be, super duper packed out and anything, but it's still going to be a tough environment. And, you got to be ready to go in there and, shut some people up. Excuse me.
Falconer with this one as well. Does the outcome of Florida State, Florida make a difference?
The more games that Florida wins, I mean, in the SEC is infallible, argument that makes Miami's blowout win of them look even better. Everybody was talking them up before the season. I tried to tell people I don't know how this is a single digit line, and Miami went in there and beat the hell out of them. And then everybody said that they're terrible, and then they're winning games now. And yeah, so I guess that makes Miami's resume look stronger since, SEC teams losing games doesn't make any difference in the rankings and whatnot. In terms of like for this season, I mean, it doesn't really have any impact on us. I mean, if you're looking at in terms of vibes, in terms of maybe recruiting, in terms of things like that, because like if you haven't heard, Florida has flipped like 3 or 4 Florida State commits in the last 10 days. But yeah, I mean, like in terms of those kind of things, and then, obviously, we're battling for a couple of guys with them as well. There's a potential where that could make a difference, but it's really the difference on Florida State side, whether they are able to stay in the single digits in the loss column, or it goes to 2-10. So that's really it. But I mean, like towards Miami's season, I don't really see that there's a big difference.
Falconer, we appreciate you bringing an important anniversary to light here. Rest in peace, Sean Taylor, who passed away on this date in 2007.
Yeah, 17 years ago on this day. Yeah, I know that there are a lot of Miami fans who are, and I mean, just people, who revere Sean Taylor for the life he led, the player he was, the person he was. I know a lot of people personally who even go over to the cemetery in Miami from time to time just to share their remembrances, of him and everything. And yeah, just gone way too soon and everything. So yeah, I've seen the University of Miami put up, a couple of things on social media. The Redskins, who he played for, now the Commanders, Washington football team, did as well, and everything. But yeah, just when these things come around, just reminds you that life is short. So cherish those who are here, and then remember those who have gone before us. And yeah, so we echo those and say rest in peace to Sean Taylor.
Falconer, Borregales, Ward, Restrepo, all getting drafted.
Don't know about Borregales because kickers, that can be iffy. But yes, Ward is going to be drafted in with a high or low single digit number, like 1, 2, 3. Restrepo, I think, is going to go in the top 3 rounds. I think he's going to be like a top 100 pick. I think Arroyo is probably going to be top 100, even top 75, and everything. I do think that Arroyo leaves. He did go through senior day this year, so I did see that and everything. But yeah, we'll get there when it's time. But I think that Miami will definitely have some players drafted, at least 2 of those 3 being on there. Again, kicking is weird, where sometimes people get drafted, sometimes they don't, and then they are able to sign as undrafted free agents and everything and whatnot. So I would say definitely 2 of those 3, hopefully all 3, and then others as well. But yeah, if things go to form, they should all be, there should be a good draft year for the Miami Hurricanes. And Cam Ward was the first quarterback to be invited to the Senior Bowl that happened yesterday. So I'm not sure if he's going to play, but having that. So, and there have been other guys, who were top draft picks who have gone to the Senior Bowl. And even if they don't necessarily play, they might go there and talk to some of the teams. So, yeah.
Chi-Town Kane, thank you for the contribution. I'm thankful for a DJ Pickett, Ben Hanks, Tarvis Alford, and Jaquez Carter class.
That would be near perfect with all those guys. So DJ Pickett committed to LSU, Ben Hanks Jr. committed to Florida Legacy, TJ Alford, Tarvis, TJ Alford, and Jaquez Carter both committed to O State. And Miami, really trying to push for Vernell Brown the third, and Dallas Wilson committed respectively to Florida and Oregon as well. Both of those being borderline 5-star players as well. I mean, if you get, of the 6 players I just named, these 4 plus the 2 receivers, I mean, if you get 4 of those, you're sitting pretty. If you get 5, boy, and like 6 for 6 is like college football 25, you're recruiting on freshman level type stuff. I don't think 6 for 6 is going to happen. But yeah, Chi-Town Kane, if that were to be the case, I would be thankful for it as well. And we'll know soon, because in case you guys have forgotten, next week, Wednesday, December the 4th, is early signing day. And I am done with all of my notebooks. I have all of these, the potential additions. I have their notebooks, and then also the womp they went somewhere else pieces to do. But I have all of Thanksgiving weekend to get that done. But yeah, I'm going to kick that up. So on Monday will be signing day predictions and everything. But yeah, I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks on here, and I've been grinding in the background. I have my sheet. So story stream will go up. I just had to do my final, granular edits on them, but all of them are done and in the dashboard system now. So you will not catch me up, at 3 a.m. on. I mean, I am a night owl, so you might, but you won't catch me cramming on Tuesday night for this. But yeah, we will see. So Miami continues to be strong on the field. We know that Mario Cristobal and company are strong recruiters. Even though he's talking about, the focus is singularly on Syracuse, we know that he's a tireless recruiter even while coaching a team. So, we'll see how those relationships work out and what the results are. But yeah, this or any I think a good solid combination of these 4 or maybe 6, adding the 2 receivers, adding into this class at the end, I'm definitely thankful for that.
Falconer, do people realize Saban is gone? Well, they do in the state of Alabama.
I will say, yeah, they definitely do in the state of Alabama. Elsewhere, again, no. But yeah, credit to him for, upholding the legacy of Bear Bryant, because I don't think that he's like the person who's lived up to the expectations that they have there, which is why they've gone through so many other coaches and so many other times.
Thank you, Cam. Florida beat LSU.
Hey, they did. So, that continues to buoy. No, just saying if Florida beats Florida State, that makes the Miami, Florida win larger in the general zeitgeist, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, all of that is true. But, really we do need to just focus on the business at hand. I'm drafting a piece that will be up on State of the U, not tomorrow. It'll be up on Friday morning, but everything else is already up there. So if you're looking for your film preview on Thursday, and everything, that's already up. But I will have a piece on Friday morning about this game at Syracuse and what it portends.
Jorge, thank you so much for the contribution. Appreciate you being here. Hurricane Jorge, Miami versus everyone mentality. Joaquin said dominate.
Joaquin said dominate, so that's what we got to go do. Straight like that.
All right.
Yeah.
And Falconer, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, except Gators.
Yeah, I agree. But I will even remove the last statement, to everyone, happy Thanksgiving. I hope that you guys enjoy. And, while you are hanging out early, watching the best team in the National Football League, your Detroit Lions, and everything, and whatever games you watch after that. And again, I'm from Detroit, so my Thanksgiving Day has always been centered around that game. Like, we have some snacks early, you do a little bit of cooking, that turkey's in the oven, the mac and cheese and stuff, and all those things, those go in there. But we watch the Lions game, the inaugural Thanksgiving Day game, which is why we have Thanksgiving Day games, by the way, in case you didn't know that history. Start there, and then everything else. But if you are, a person who's just, watching football and it was more about the Cowboys because they were a larger national brand, or whatever your day happens to be, you can always go over to stateoftheu.com. We have plenty of great content up there for you. On socials, we're, at the State of the U and everything as well. So, no matter how you spend your day, get caught up with us, even on this, vlog or podcast, whatever you're doing, and enjoy the time with your families. And yeah, get prepared for Saturday, because it will be, it'll be a game to watch. So it all comes down to this.
We've got legendary scratch builds jumping in here. Cam, Mark, how awesome would it be if Miami played Ohio State for this year's national championship?
I already said that if we played that team in the playoffs, my nerves would be bad, because I hate them so much that even going up against them and having the potential for losing would stress me all the way out. It would be very, it would be noteworthy. You would definitely have plenty of history to talk about in such an occasion. But yeah, so I don't know. That's just my personal read on it. But yeah.
Since I'm included on the question, legendary, as long as Ohio State's playing for a national championship, that's fine with me.
There's that as well.
For me personally, Chi-Town King, Cam, I'm hoping my Bears pull it off.
Yeah, exactly. So Lions 38. Yeah, they're playing the Bears.
Oh, okay.
So
That's got a
Lions
real
38,
traditional feel.
Bears 10, kind of a game incoming. I am hopeful. So both of my parents are from Chicago, by the way. My mom's family moved to Detroit when I was very young, so we identify as Detroit. I identify as a Detroiter. I know my roots run through Chicago, but I do have an Underwood family chat with all the Underwoods who still stay over there and still are very staunch Bears fans, and I'm hoping to light into that chat on Thursday for Thanksgiving, so it'll be a good time. But I do not hope that your Bears are able to pull that off. I hope that the Lions get to 11-1, similar as the Canes on just a different day.
I am so laid back with my NFL fandom these days. Whatever I watch is fine. It doesn't matter to me. But there was certainly a time in which, at 12:30 Eastern time on Thanksgiving, I had to see the kickoff of the Lions. And then I don't know how it needed to be arranged. I know that there was one particular Thanksgiving 2 years in a row when we were at a friend's house. My mom actually talked to them and said, Mark can't miss this football games and so forth. Like, I'm sitting in a separate room with a TV because we got a little overlap between, the two games. Well, they make sure there's no overlap, but anyway, couldn't miss anything back in the day. But I was a big Cowboys fan until I was about 25.
Nice.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for showing up. We appreciate all the contributions, everyone. Thank you for that. And happy Thanksgiving, Cam, and everyone else.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.